This video covers our TR34 report generator. For this video, you're going to need to know how to collect data using our TR34 Run and/or our TR34 Node app. We will also discuss how to import several different job files into the same report, which is useful for the obvious fact that you may have a job with multiple floor measurements. Or, as we mentioned, you may run into a time where the floor you are measuring in a day exceeds the size the phone screen itself permits. At this point, you have two options. Either get yourself a Bluetooth-enabled tablet, which allows for more screen real estate, so you can measure a larger area under a single job, or you can just break the measurement area into several sections and measure each section as an individual job file. If you measure each section as an individual job using our Node app, you will want to know what the offset from datum is for each of the top left corners of each job. And if you're using our Run app, you'll already have these elevations. Now for both apps, you'll want to place your sections at least 3 meters away from your previous section, such that you have no overlapping measurements. Now with that said, here on our desktop we have two job files which were taken with our TR34 Node app, Test 1 and Test 2. We emailed this to ourselves and saved it to our desktop. Test 3 and Test 4 were taken with TR34 Run app. And as you know, the Node app is used in situations where you want to measure property E with the axiom, while the Run app is used where you want to manually enter the property E values into the app. Now let's open the report generator and you will see that you will need to enable the macros. Go ahead and do so. With the macros enabled, let's start the report generator aid. Now a lot of this is self-explanatory, so I'm not going to spend too much time on it, but we will go through it. As you can see, this is the section where you enter your client's info. As you enter the info, you can see that it's also filling out your report for you. With that filled out, let's move on to the project info section. Go ahead and plug in your project name, number, and address here. You can also put in the person from your company who has done the testing. Also for this report generator, we keep it locked on 300mm feet. So as you can see, it defaults to that here. And most importantly, this is the page where you enter in your job or jobs, so let's do that by pressing the Import Replace Data File button. We have two options: create a new report or load another file to the current report. And since this is a new report, we're going to press Create New Report. There is some practice data already loaded in the report generator, so yes, we're going to want to replace the current data. The floor we measured was an FM2 floor, and the measured area in our case was only 162 square meters. With that entered, hit Next, and let's load in our first job file, which is Test 1. Just watch the progress bar on the bottom. This can take a little while, so just be patient. Now if this was the only job we tested for this floor area, we would just select Done. However, it wasn't, so let's add our Test 2 job file. As well as this time, we will select Load Another Data File to Current Report, since we're adding it to the existing report. You see here, now we can't select the FM category, as it has to be the same as the one we selected previously. So just press Next, and now let's grab the file from my desktop. With both jobs loaded, we will press Done, and now go back into the report generator aid. Before we press Next to go onto the company info page, you see that we also can choose to show or to not show certain pages in the report. For instance, let's just say I don't want to include the measurement data page in my report. So all I would do is just uncheck this box here. Now let's press Next to move on to the report details page. On this page, you will enter your company name and pertinent contact info, and here's where you can import your logo. As long as your logo is a PNG or JPEG, you should have no issues importing it. With data entry complete, just press Close. Here we are on our inspection report page. This is the front page that your customer will see. And much of what we filled out in the report generator aid section has been filled out on this page. Also, since it's Excel, you can adjust or make any kind of formatting changes as you see fit. If you want to change the font or color, by all means do so. Now let's look a little closer at the data. From within the apps, when you took the measurements and you went to the results section, you probably saw that these jobs didn't pass the FM2 specification. However, you also see that here in a bit more detail. Here you see the floor area, the floor category, as well as the specified limits of property E and F. This shows the survey results for property E, and we see that for property E there were 2 values which exceeded 6.5 millimeters above the desired finished floor elevation. And now here there were 7 values which fell below 6.5 millimeters. Here we see the total E values are 48. And since we have 9 E values which exceed the FM2 threshold, it ends up being 19% of the total E values, which far exceeds the TR34 threshold of 5%. So unfortunately, we have failed our property E test for this project. Also, you see that it highlights our highest and lowest points from datum as well. And the property F chart is laid out in much the same way. We had a total of 31 points which were above the 2 millimeter threshold, and 29 points which fell below the 2 millimeter threshold. And here again, you see the total measured property F points of 464, and that 13% of our points exceeded the 2 millimeter threshold, which again is above the 5%. So this floor has also failed the property F test. Here's where you can see which data files were imported into this document. And if you choose not to show them in your final report, you can certainly delete those 2 cells like this. To finish up the last page, as the person who is the reviewer, all you need to do is import your signature. And again, a PNG or JPEG of your signature works. However, this also supports other formats if you have your signature saved in either of these as well. So here I will insert my signature. Now let's look at each of the other pages, and let's start with our surface layout page. On this page, there will be a preloaded plan image, and we will use it for this training, but you will most certainly want to import your own plan set image. Now, I want to put the grids that I measured over the top of this plan image. So I'll press the load grid layout. Select grid 1, which is the first job I loaded. Here it is, and we will put it where we took the data, and now let's load grid 2 and put it where we took the measurements as well. With the grid layouts done, let's just go through the rest of the tabs. Now let's open the eValues tab. Here you see both of the jobs that we measured and their eValues. We also see which eValues are above or below the 6.5 millimeter threshold. Since eValues are the differences between the entered elevations, they are laid out on this chart to visually represent that. The elevations you entered for the nodes are actually not shown on this chart, just the differences between those 2 elevations. Moving on to our F values. These are the changes in slope between 2 consecutive 300 millimeter intervals. And since it's an FM2 floor, we have a 2 millimeter plus or minus threshold. Here you see it lists each row and column you measured, and if we follow this down, you see that we measured a total of 29 points. Grid 2 is job 2, and as you can see, it just populates to the right and down as well. On the profile plots page, we get each of our row and column run data represented in elevation. You can edit the vertical axes as desired. Also, if while you're looking at the data, you would like to quickly compare one row or column against another, you can simply copy and paste one over the other like this. The measurement data shows the elevations of our grid at 300 millimeter intervals. The top left corner has the starting elevation of -1 millimeter. And this was the value we entered as our offset from datum. It's color coded such that the red is our high points and blue is our lowest points. So now that we have gone over all the pages, it's time to publish our report so we can send it to our customer. So let's just publish as a PDF and save it to our desktop. Now it's ready to send. One other thing we need to cover is how to import our TR34 run data. Again, we use this app when we are taking the property E measurements manually with a transit or something to that effect. So I'll open the report generator aid and just skip right through to the report details page and import tests 3 and 4. I will create a new report, which means it will overwrite any data that exists in this current report. With test 3 loaded, I will now load test 4. Now I'm not going to spend too much time explaining any of these pages since we've already done that. But as you can see, we've passed property E and F. Now if we go to our surface layout page and delete our last grids and import the new ones, here's where you'll see a couple differences. The difference here is that it shows the elevational values in only the areas we measured. Since we did not gather the property E values with the Axiom, and we entered them in manually, you see that we have our 3 meter spacing elevations, and only the run and column data that we needed to collect in order to satisfy the minimum measured value requirements of property F. Our E values page is the same. Now our F values page just shows the row and columns that we measured. Our profile plots page will show our row and column plots. However, it will also just show the elevations we entered in a given row or column as dots, like this. Lastly, our measured data page is a zoomed in look at what we put on our surface layout page. And again, this is for the elevations at 300 millimeters at the 3 meter spacings for property E. Like we did previously, if you want to create a report out of this, you just need to publish it as a PDF, and now it's ready to send off to your customers. And that covers our TR34 report generator.